The Match Ball.
Hello and welcome to the show. We're streaming live on YouTube for a small number of hardy souls right now, our TSP Plus members. You can watch the show later on Catch Up on YouTube. You can listen in your podcast app after the event as well. Levi Solicitors bring you the show. Michael?
They do.
Mm-hmm.
They do. If you want dispute resolution and not in a Millwall way,
Mm-hmm.
you can speak to them.
Yep.
You can speak to them about wills, probate, conveyancing.
The big three.
The big three.
The big three. Full details and terms on the website. Anything to add, Chris, by the way?
Just go and do something your Saturday. Why are you sitting here watching this?
Full details, terms on the website, levisolicitors.co.uk/the square ball. Yeah, it's Dan, it's Michael, and it's Chris Mack as Leeds exited the FA Cup to Millwall 2-0, Ellen Road. Ah, shucks.
Once again, the dream has died. Another Leeds United FA Cup campaign over.
Wembley, no more.
Yeah. It felt like there was just a collective shrug in the air about that today. Starting out with the number of changes. I was almost, when we were 2-0 down, thinking, don't bother with the subs.
I must admit, when the subs were coming on, I was thinking, is this worth it? But I could see why we were trying to still win in the game, because there's still time. But at the same time, maybe it's not so bad.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a Power Rangers moment whenever all the first three subs came on, because they all ran back at the same time, all took their jumpers off at the same time, and we're all running straight past the dugout. We're ready to go.
The mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a bit of a go. I think we were saying just before we started streaming, Chris, weren't we, about Ampadu's performance? And he's the captain, and Farke has described him as his most important player. And I think if you could embody or symbolise that entire game in one person's performance, it was probably Ampadu's, who was never mentally switched on fully, a few stray passes, a little loose ball under the foot, that kind of thing. Just
Yeah, it was him. It was early it was first half, wasn't it, when he should have just passed it across to the right and he just held on to it and they got the ball and I think he hit the post, then the bar then post. It was kind of like ping-ponged around for a little bit, didn't it? Then they put it wide as well. But yeah, it was uncharacteristic from Ampadu, because he's generally, even on an off day, he's a sort of a solid 6 out of 10, isn't he? But it was not great.
Farke did say, one or two changes. Anything more than that's too much. But
what was it, 10?
10.
Right.
It was 10.
That's more than...
It's more than one.
But weirdly, for as badly as we played, probably collectively and for the most part individually, could still have easily got something from that. Because there's a massive deflection on the first goal. Darlow, I think, should do better on that. We've missed a penalty. Their keeper's been their best player by far. So there's, on another day, we actually do scrape through that.
I think it's the difference. If you have your first team out against that team, it's a completely different kettle of fish, isn't it? It's just it just is what it is. It's an FA Cup game that nobody was really asked about. No one's taking any risks within ahead of the Tuesday game against Watford, who've done us a massive favour today, by the way. 2-2 up at Sunderland. I was walking back. I was actually more engrossed in watching the score on FOTMob in that second half, hoping that they would stay in front. They didn't, but even still, we've gained 2 points on Sunderland this weekend. I feel happier about the fact that we've gained 2 points on them, or stretched out the gap by 2 points. That eclipses my disappointment at going out of the FA Cup today 2-0, which probably tells you all you need to know about that game.
Yeah. We'd be having our cake and eating it if we wanted to win a game, having made 10 changes.
Yeah.
And been annoyed that we didn't win it.
I don't think we wanted to lose it, but I don't feel like it was there's a lot of jeopardy or heartache attached to losing that. Fine.
I feel like the team itself is probably strong enough to win that game. It's the fact that it's so many changes and it's a lineup that's not played together. Like if we started a season with that team, it'd probably be fine. Mm-hmm. Maybe one or two exceptions. Maybe we need a few more reinforcements through the middle. But generally speaking, it's not a weak side we put out, but it just was disjointed, wasn't it? And it was.
That's the word. Yeah. Disjointed is the word. I mean, like if you look at the right-hand side as well, you've got Schmidt at right back, a child in front of him in Chambers, who've probably never played together before in any sort of meaningful capacity. So they're not making the runs that they're all used to. Whereas you saw the difference when Firpo and Solomon came on, all of a sudden down that left-hand side, it went up levels just because of that familiarity.
Yeah, the left-hand side was a bit frustrating, actually, because I really noticed today how right-footed Byram is as well. There were a number of chances where there was space down the outside. I think maybe because we've got used to watching Firpo for a couple of weeks and he's just been going down the left, putting cross after cross in.
Yeah.
Today, watching Byram turn back, you could sense it in the crowd. There was a bit of every time he turned around, and it was not quite flowing.
Yeah, I think Schmidt and Chambers looked quite good and linked up quite well on that side, but they were having to do a lot more because there clearly wasn't like a decent relationship between Byram and Ramazani. It just wasn't there in the same way that it was whenever Firpo and Solomon came on.
And I was going to say, Chris, in many ways, do you agree that the biggest problem, and this is going to sound really, really mean when I say it, but stay with me, was Gilavogi in a way? Because if the pair that are out on wide on each side are looking for the central midfielder to make a three in that position, it's a different ball game entirely, whether that's Gilavogi, who looked every bit a mid-30s guy on the downslope of his career, bless him, versus Tanaka and Rothwell in there, or Ampadu, or, Gruev, any of them in there who would just make themselves available. And they're up to speed with the game. That's all. And you could see it in his performance. What do you think of Gilavogi then?
The physical and technical profile of Gilavogi is not someone that we would have signed if it wasn't needing someone in the middle of October. So, yeah, the tackle that he got yellow carded for was so bad.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Because you were in the press box today, weren't you?
I should have got my wee.
Did you get a little telly? Where's the bell? Is the bell even still
behind?
here?
It's behind you.
The little telly bell. We haven't used that for ages.
There you go.
There you go.
Hey.
The little telly bell. So did you see the replay? How bad was it?
When I saw it first time, I thought, oh, it's okay. But it did look like they only showed one replay, as you can imagine. I think they were like, one is enough. We don't need to remind anyone of that. It was above the ankle anyway.
Right.
And studs.
Yeah. But he immediately, do you see him? He
means well.
Yeah.
But he immediately went to the player to apologise as soon as he'd done it. Not for the purposes of avoiding a card. I think he just realised that he'd just been caught.
Yeah, there was no malice in it. It was
got there as fast as he could.
The ball ran. Yeah, the ball ran away from him, and his foot went straight into the guy. But it was a little bit of a dirty game in the first half. I thought there was a few times. There's a couple that they got away with where they didn't make contact, but there's one or two slide tackles from behind that were just a bit unnecessary, almost.
Alex Neil's a bit like that, and his Preston team was kind of a bit geared towards that. I seem to remember.
And is that just?
Although maybe they just had that lunatic in midfield at the time. What's his name? The guy who always got
Ben Pearson.
Maybe they just had him in the team, and he's just a bit of a hand grenade.
And you've got to say, is that justification for making the number of changes that we did and not risking players? Because my dad was saying that to me today. He was like, I have a feeling that if we'd have played a number of our first team players, that they might have just kicked the shit out of them. And it's just not worth risking the injury.
It's like in the 93rd minute, Solomon went down, didn't he, on the touchline? It was a bit like, oh no.
He was fine.
He was fine.
Yeah, he said something to Alex Neil, and Alex Neil said something to him, but it seemed quite well mannered rather than being telling him to get up or whatever.
Should we just dive into the stats? Because I don't feel like there's a right lot to talk about with that game, because it just played out in the. I was going to say it was almost like a typical cup tie. It was probably just about one level over testimonial or pre-season friendly in terms of what you saw from Leeds today. It was clearly a competitive match versus a friendly, but it never felt like we engaged much beyond second or third gear. It was a bit workmanlike.
There was nothing happening in the stadium either, was there?
No, it was flat as a fart.
It was really quiet. You could sense no one really cared when we were behind. When we missed a penalty, everyone sort of went,
well.
Oh, fucking hell. There was not much more than that, though, was there?
I mean,
there was no anger. Like, we've been in there when we've missed important penalties.
I was going to say, do a mental exercise, Michael, and if that had been the league game against Millwall and the same thing unfolded, imagine the difference what it would have been like.
Exactly. Whereas as it was, everyone went, bloody hell, Pascal. That was shit, wasn't it?
Did that keeper got a hand to it, I think?
It was a good save.
Yeah.
It was in the corner, but he wasn't struck particularly cleanly. And he did that thing where he's almost waiting for the keeper to dive, but then
he didn't.
He just hit to that side anyway. So it wasn't a brilliant penalty.
As Tony DeRigo said to us, Michael, when you're a lefty, you should go the other way. Maybe not every time. Mix it up a little bit.
You know what my method on penalties would be.
Kick it dead hard into the net.
Kicking it really hard. I'm not a fan of the generally speaking. There are only a few players who can really do the staggered run up and watch the keeper dive thing. It seems to be quite a niche skill that people have.
Yeah. I mean, Messi did it in the World Cup final, but he is also Lionel Messi.
Yeah. Yeah, like Tony can do it.
Finished player.
Jorginho can do it. There are a few who consistently can do that run up and stop thing, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe a hefty centre back isn't the
Jorginho has missed
choice.
that penalty on multiple occasions and in big games.
Yeah, true. And did he miss one in the Euros, actually?
He missed, I think maybe missed in the semi-final or the final. No, he missed in the final. He also missed one that meant they missed the next World Cup after that.
That's a shame.
But yeah, again, the missed penalty, you just kind of went, well, that's just today, isn't it? That's what's happening today.
Yeah.
They've had a couple of, at least one deflection. We've missed a penalty. No one's asked. It all just felt wrong, didn't it? It didn't feel alive in the way that Ellen Road could feel alive.
No. The second goal was it just felt really sloppy all round. I think
Was Anthony involved in that? Was he?
I think it was Gilavogi.
All right.
Misses out in the middle. But Schmidt's right out of position on the left-hand side for some reason. I guess because we've got the ball and he's just drifted over there, but then we lose it and quite quickly it turns around. I think it's Gilavogi loses it in midfield and they're just played in, and then the shot itself is quite savable too.
Schmidt gets pushed over, but it's one of those you just know you're not getting a free kick for it. Really, really soft.
Yeah.
Other than that, I thought he played well again.
I thought he was decent.
Yeah.
The thing is, he's clearly he's not our first choice right back because Bogle's been probably our best player the last month, or certainly one of the top 2 or 3 anyway. And as a standing, good, like perfectly solid.
Yeah, he looks technically adept, even if he doesn't link up very well because he's not playing many minutes at all.
Yeah.
Well, if at all, because he missed out on the squad, didn't he, the other day?
And also, as you said, he's playing with a child in front of him today as well, which is probably not easy.
Very brightly.
He did.
To be fair.
Could have scored. Yeah,
it's a shame.
When he cut inside.
There was a good chance, was that, wasn't it? It hits it straight at the keeper, more or less.
When he hit that, like there was a real magic of the cup moment when he got it. God, go on. Yeah.
Shirt off, goad in the empty seats in front of the Millwall fans. Well, yeah, Sheffield United Portsmouth is underway as we start this, so we'll keep an eye on that for the people who are with us. We'll be able to do the same as well, but emotionally, I think that will probably impact us more than what we saw today at Ellen Road. Possibly worth just having a little dip into the stats, just so we've got something to talk about. Come on, let's be fair. It's just one of those, isn't it? Yeah, majority of possession, higher XG, but that's again influenced by the penalty.
But we take the penalty out, it shows it was pretty even, doesn't it? Like there's really nothing in it if you take out the penalty.
Yeah.
13 shots to 9. I don't know. You had the tally.
I
couldn't
thought
tell.
It was in front of me. I thought he did get a shove. Whether or not he, opts to go over, but there was a hand in his back. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, might not have got given somewhere else on the pitch.
Was certainly not as clear as the one on Aronson the other night, but you can't account for the way referees look to see things sometimes.
Would rather have had that as a penalty the other night than that one today. Just saying. But yeah, shots 13 to their 9, 8 shots on target to their 2, 2 big chances to their 1. I mean, yeah. What do you think that says about the game? Anything?
It was not that fun.
No.
Yeah, it was completely different, wasn't it? Like within the first 10 minutes, I'm so used to us having the ball, but actually they had a fair bit of possession and territory in the first 10 minutes, and it was a bit like, oh, this isn't a normal Leeds game.
No.
Normally where we've gotten penned in at this point, but it was, I'm pretty sure they had the best of it for the first 10.
They did. They looked quite confident. We seem to be defending quite narrowly, or maybe slightly more narrow than usual, because there's a few times where Alex Neil was whistling and then just pointing where they put the ball, and there was always space on either side.
Yeah.
Which is perhaps where Schmidt let himself down a little bit today. I thought positionally he wasn't great, and he wasn't great for the first goal. But other than that, I thought he played quite well because he's what Leeds sign is a fullback who can't defend, basically. Yeah, it's just one of those days, isn't it?
I feel like the main thing to come out of today is almost confirmation that we have been playing our best team.
Yes.
I don't think there's anyone who's...
Did anyone make a case for getting in?
No.
No.
Not at all. I think Joseph was very poor.
Yeah. He didn't have all that much to work with,
No.
but he should have done better with what he had. I thought a lot of misplaced passes. His touch wasn't great.
His reading of the game didn't seem to be great either. It felt to me like there'd be balls floating up in the air, and he was looking for a mistake or maybe a knockdown or something. He wasn't challenging for a lot of first balls.
I noticed, he was kind of gambling on people missing it and then it being behind. I noticed him doing that.
And maybe there was a slight lack of physicality both in his performance and the team overall a little bit. And that's what I mean about it. Never felt like we quite got out of second or third gear, I think. Nobody particularly came out of that one with much glory.
I mean, in moments, Ramazani and Nonto looked all right. I thought Ramazani was maybe a bit unlucky. It was a decent save from the keeper, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Then he pushed it around the post. or pushed it out and it was put behind. I can't quite remember now. But he came close-ish. He didn't quite strike it sweetly. Nantes obviously won the pen.
The average score for the team has come out on Fotmore about 6.3 out of 10. Millwall have averaged 7.2, and their keeper, man of the match, has got a 9.4. Obviously, saving a penalty helps, but he was having one of those games where you know just occasionally you come up against the keeper who is just having a bit of a worldy game. It felt like he got his hands to everything. So sometimes you just got to say, "Oh, fair enough." Whereas like Darlow got 5. Back 4, Schmidt on 7.2, Ampadu 6.5, Strout 6.1, Byram 6, Guilabogi 6.4, Rothwell 7, Nonto, our top performer, at 7.5, Chambers at 6, Ramazani 6.5, and then Joseph at 6. It's fairly fair scores, you would say.
Yeah, I'm surprised Nonto's as high as that, actually. I guess because he won the penalty, it probably boosts him up.
Yeah, it's one of the stats. He's got quite high ground duels run. He's got a shot on target, got a key pass, which I'm sure scores him quite highly. So, yeah, I did think he showed that maybe there is a different option at 10. I still think Brendan Aronson is our one and only natural number 10 at the minute. But if you're in a game where you don't need that sort of pressing option, you maybe need a little bit of impact in the middle, in the final 20-25 minutes. He's probably your man. Yeah,
because Chambers was the one who was starting on the right hand side of the three, and Nonto was in the number 10 today. Yeah. But what else have you got to pick on then from that?
I think that was about it.
Yeah, there wasn't much.
It was quite a boring game compared to recent weeks when it feels like there's been a dozen chances to talk about. It was pretty slim pickings, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was one of those games that could have just gone either way, and it went the Millwall way because huge deflection for the first goal, and just pretty poor defending as well, but really quite poor goalkeeping for the second. I would say if we learned anything today, we should probably question Daniel Farke a little bit less for backing his goalkeeper and telling us that we shouldn't make so many changes. Then he goes and makes all the changes anyway, and it doesn't work.
And again, as we were talking about with Tony DeRigo at the back end of the week, we were both advocating for it's fine if we go out.
The team is exactly what I would have done. To be perfectly honest.
Yeah, and Tony was actually talking up. He was like, come on, you guys.
To the extent where actually I'd have even been tempted to not even play Ampadu. I'd have just been tempted to stick the bio in from the start and just go, look, we're throwing it in more or less. If we win, we win, and it's good practice for the people who played. But if not, fine. I think with the game on Tuesday, it changes it, quite drastically from it there being if there's a week between them as well.
Yeah,
because it's so clearly the more important game, isn't it?
They didn't play midweek either. Their rescheduled game is March time, maybe. So they also had a week, and they only made 5 changes rather than 10 from their last game.
Yeah. So there's just no argument for
they've
playing anything like full strength. There's a none.
Because they're right in the middle, aren't they? They're not going to go down. They're not going to be in the playoffs. An FA Cup run for them is kind of, as fun as anything ever is for Millwall.
Yeah.
You get the feeling they don't find much joy in life. But it's, so fine.
Yeah. And the thing is, if we go to Watford on Tuesday, who, like I said earlier on, they've done us a massive favour by drawing with Sunderland today, and they will have expended a lot of energy in that game. They're facing the two best attacking sides, probably, arguably, in the division. So if they've got less in the tank on Tuesday, and we've rotated 10, and we're in finer fettle, and we win there on Tuesday, then great.
In some ways, rotating a whole team feels somehow less damaging for morale than rotating like 5 players and losing.
Yeah,
because actually everyone can draw a line under it and go, look, it was the reserves we put out.
Yeah, and
so fine.
And you give yourself,
it almost doesn't count as a first team game, even though it clearly was.
Taking it in the wider context of the season as well, winning at Coventry through the week just gives you the platform to do today and get away with it. Yeah. I think to a certain extent, if you'd lost in the previous game, nerves had started to creep in. It would have framed it differently, but we'd given ourselves enough wriggle room, I think.
Look at the Middlesbrough game early in the season, because that had come off the back of us drawing with Portsmouth, and what had happened after? Was there another game in between?
The game after that was the 0-0 with West Brom, but that was only the second competitive game.
But that felt like it, because we didn't quite know where we were at that stage. I feel like that brought about quite a bit more panic from people. Whereas this one, I'd be amazed if many people are annoyed by it.
No.
I think everyone will be just like, well, never mind.
There is a definite potential for a game like this to be quite damaging when you're on a promotion charge, but I just don't think it was.
Yeah, it feels completely inconsequential, doesn't it? Like if you go to like Histon, or we did, or losing to like Newport or something, and it feels almost a tap into your existential terror as a Leeds fan. This doesn't. Going out to a team in the same division when you've got promotion at stake.
Yeah.
And a game on Tuesday, it feels...
It's Leeds reserves losing to Millwall, who are in the same division. It's fine.
Yeah. And what it does mean is in 3 weeks' time, we get West Brom at Ellen Road rather than having to reaccommodate that game somewhere else and give ourselves another midweek to deal with. And that, don't forget, is off the back of the Sheffield United game, which is on the Monday. So you couldn't put that game in midweek there. Yeah. You could have to push it further down the calendar, aren't you?
Yeah, when we were looking the other week, weren't we, at the potential consequences of going through this, and we were like, it does pinch everything up a little bit, doesn't it? And I'm kind of pleased not to have that headache.
Yeah,
it's really boring.
Sad, isn't it?
It is. I'm aware how
if we'd won,
kind of miserable it is.
If we'd won today and thumped Millwall, you'd be going great, and we can look forward to a tie in the next round. But it as I posed the question to Dorigo on Friday, was where does this fall on the nice distraction or unwanted distraction scale? And it's quite hard to pin down, isn't it? Like, if you imagine if you got Man City or something like that at home in the next round, where there's going to be huge demand for it, but you're probably going to lose, but it's a big enough tie.
And also, it's the sort of tie where
you have to play your first team.
Yeah, you can't realistically throw Chambers in because you think, well, that'd be a little bit unfair on him. Whereas this is it felt like a comfortable get out of the cup without much consequence kind of a game until we hear from Farke when he says that. There's a load of hamstring injuries or something, but everyone looked fine.
He did say that Rodon and James had taken knocks, and that's why they weren't involved. No sign about them for Tuesday, but you'd imagine he would probably say if there's an issue there.
Yeah, and that's the luxury you get from, if this is an important game today, you imagine they're probably fit enough to feature, don't you? Whereas it's nice to be able to say, look, it's fine, stay at home, do what you want.
Possibly worth. I can't even be bothered giving it the oxygen of publicity. This, but the tragedy chanting because they were singing "Where Were You in Istanbul" and other stuff related to that. Always look out for Turks carrying knives. It's like I see this. It's just the equivalent of like Twitter trolls trying to upset people. It's what they're chasing, isn't it? Is trying to upset people, and then they followed it up by singing "You're Gonna Cry in a Minute" when Leeds fans started booing back at it. But anyway, statements have been issued. And Alex Neil in the post-match press conference has said, I'm sure we as a club will not condone that. I'm sure the club will be making a statement. Farke said, one of the most stupid quotes is that football is more important than life and death. Death and health of human beings is more important than a game of football. Wants the football community to stand against it.
It's Millwall.
Yep, that's what we expect.
It's Millwall doing Millwall-y things.
In terms of the game, I've got lots of stuff. All right, so I've got lots of stuff about the tragedy chanting from all the journalists.
It's one of those
on my Twitter list.
It's entirely predictable that it happens.
Yeah,
because it seems to happen. But it happens down there a lot. I know there's been occasions where they've printed out the little turkey flags, and so I was at one of the games where they were doing it, and it was like a grown man handing out. He'd obviously gone on his bloody inkjet and he'd printed out turkey flags to hand out to people in the stadium.
You see the price of inkjet print?
And you just think
it's expensive, isn't it?
You just think, fucking hell, what a pathetic excuse of a human to think that's like, this is going to be good. This, and I think it might have been the same game that they had an England flag with Sutcliffe 13-0 written on it, and you just think, what do you mean? What?
Yeah, there are some people that are just weird. I think with that, if you're going to have rules and regulations around it, actually do something about it. Don't fine them. There's no point in fining the club because
it's a paper tiger.
Nobody really suffers there. One game behind closed doors and that's it. Don't like it, don't do it.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's that simple.
It's hard to judge with these things, isn't it? Because what's the critical mass of people singing it that you need to go, that's not an isolated incident. That's because if like one person says something, you think, well, that's maybe a bit unfair to punish a club. But if you go out, we can tell that like 200 were singing it, 300, 400. Like and I realise it's hard to draw a line on these things. And as a club, we've not been innocent of it in the past either. I've heard Leeds songs about Munich and stuff in the past, not recently, admittedly, but it does go on, doesn't it? So it's hard to know exactly where to draw the line. But
and if I will say
with Millwall, they are repeat offenders of this and other things. It is not an isolated incident.
I was going to say, if there's one authority that can bodge this, it'll be the FA, and they'll probably fudge their way through it and like whatever.
They'll find him like 30 grand.
Yeah, it'll happen again, whatever. Talking about the actual game itself, Alex Neil said that they thought they played very well, defended defiantly after conceding a penalty, which he felt it should not have been given. First 75 minutes, we carried a real threat. And he said, regarding the Gilavogi challenge, I'm not one for wanting to get players sent off.
Oh,
Seems quite fair.
Yeah, I think it's very clear there was no malice or intent. It was just reckless, but he's fine. Thankfully, he's fine. Like it did when you slow it down the replay, it always looks worse, but it did look quite sore.
Yeah. Farke is saying regarding the 10 changes, it's all down to the schedule. Knew it would be a difficult game, but would have preferred to go through. Rodon, James, and Verba have knocks, but expects to have them available at Watford. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. We fully expected to just return to the Coventry team, don't we? Essentially.
Yeah. I mean, just that was Popey's tweets. This is Berens just saying about those Rodon and James knocks. Not fully recovered. Nothing stupid today. Joel Pirro, a few knocks. No sense in risking anything. Hope to have them back for Tuesday. Yeah, there you go. Game in a nutshell. Anything else to say about the whole thing, or should we knock it on the head there? Because God, we've got some extra time to try and eke out of that.
Well, it's been non-football chat.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think we need to go any longer on this one. So cheers for joining us on the match ball. I know it's slightly abbreviated. We've not really said much, but what can you say about that apart from well done, Watford?
It's not the worst Leeds United FA Cup exit I can remember.
No.
If we're looking at the positives.
It's probably not even in the top 10.
Oh, God, no. Nothing like. Absolutely nothing like. So, well done, Leeds.
Yeah, worth sticking about, I think, if you remember. We appreciate you joining us on the stream. If you check out your audio version in your podcast app, we'll give you some extra time now to become a member. thesquareball.net/plus. We're going to be speaking to Graham and Joe, both coming over from the YEP. Maybe we can tag team them, tap them in and out.
That's interesting. They haven't got enough mics.
No,
they can live aid it, can't
they? Do a half each. We could maybe exclude one from the room, talk to one, and then swap them over and say, go on, tell us the real truth about your colleague.
Oh, okay.
That'll be fun. So look out for that on the West Stand on Monday, where I feel like we'll preview Watford more, maybe.
Yeah.
Feels like we'll preview Watford. So cheers for joining us on this one. We'll see you soon.
The Match Ball.